Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. I enjoy how easy the meals are to make and the variety to choose from, and of course, how amazing the meals taste. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. You can choose from a variety of new recipes each week, like meatball pizza with fresh mozzarella cheese and charmed tomatoes, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you're never going to get bored. Customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you can choose what fits your needs, and there's no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe and pre-portioned ingredients and can be prepared in about 40 minutes or less. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. Blue Apron, it's a better way to cook.
Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here we are. Good morning. We are back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, a quarter of the way through the season, and one NFL unbeaten remains, barely. And don't let the score fool you. This one last night decided on 2 plays. First, a game-winning field goal, and then a spread-covering fumble return with no time left that provides one of the crazy backdoor covers of all time. We've got all that in the hopper today, and we have the big man, Booger McFarland, here to help us through all morning long. Hello, Booger.
What's going on, Green Man?
Well, what a ridiculous ending to that game last night. We were all just talking about it here with the crew. That fumble recovery on the flea flicker, right, one last desperation play, which has absolutely no chance to succeed and hasn't essentially since the band was on the field between Stanford and Cal, is the spread and the over in the game last night by half a point. That's one of the ridiculous bad beats that you will ever see in your life.
It's amazing. That's how you look at it. I look at it as a touchdown for Justin Houston. That's the way I look at it. As a defensive guy, I have a touchdown now. My name will be in the paper. You'll never be able to take that one away from me. And the common man says, you know what? I either won or lost a lot of money on that one.
Yeah, believe me, the only reason you say that is because you never bet on any of these games. For those of you who didn't see it, Harrison Butker, and that is actually his name, kicks what essentially is a game-winning field goal with 4 seconds left yesterday. And so Washington gets the ball down 3 on their own 25-yard line, and they throw that ridiculous little short pass, and they're lateraling it around. And the next thing you know, Justin Houston has it in his hands. And I've been there. I've been on both sides of this in my life. Again, I've said many times.
As far as the guy betting.
Yes, exactly.
You've never been in the game.
Oh, no, I've most certainly never been Justin Houston holding the ball.
Make sure you phrase that properly, because somebody listening like, Greeny play ball?
Listen,
no.
I haven't even been Harrison Butker, okay? I most certainly haven't been Justin Houston. But I have been the guy watching that thing on either side of it with my face frozen either in abject horror or just unimaginable joy as this guy goes running into the end zone for what is, on one level, a completely meaningless touchdown. Like, to you, a completely meaningless touchdown, beyond the fact that the kid gets to score. He's not a kid, Justin Houston. That the guy gets to score a touchdown. But as far as the outcome of the game, it had already been decided.
Correct.
But again, that play is the spread. It's instead of 23-20, it goes to 29-20, and that is both the point spread and the over by half a point as the Chiefs remain unbeaten.
You got to love it. And here's the great thing about that play, Greeny. NFL teams only practice that play usually on Friday or Saturday, and usually it's in shorts. So that's a play that's practiced. I mean, it'll be kind of a fun play where guys mess around, offensive lineman gets to catch the football, but it's an actually scripted play.
Does it ever work in practice?
Yeah, if the defense allows it to.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
But other than that, it never works.
Doesn't want that to
It
work.
never
It's
works.
never going to work.
No, because
right?
it's not choreographed. You have offensive linemen that essentially have to catch the football, and most offensive linemen have no hands. So it never works. But you have to do it to say, what if? What if it's like it really works just one time?
I get it. You don't take a knee and say, okay, this game is over. I understand you try something.
Could,
I mean, it's tantamount to the same thing. But again, that is a ridiculous backdoor cover, bad beat, whatever the terminology of the day is. But I've been there. I've seen it. I remember there was a play I'll never forget where Jason Sehorn caught an onside kick in the air and took it back for a meaningless touchdown that turned a point spread. We've seen a lot of those kind of crazy last plays.
Right.
Scott Van Pelt does a great job with those on his Sports Center at night. And so that one last night is a perfect example.
There was one with the UCLA-Stanford game when
Yes.
the UCLA quarterback dropped the football and the Stanford defensive lineman ran it in. That was one of the all-timers until last night.
So there you have it last night. That's obviously not the headline, except that it is in so many different ways. And, of course, we've gone through a stretch of time here where so many things have happened in our world that have been so sad, and the horrifying events in Las Vegas of the other night that we spent. And, Bugger, you referenced them here with us yesterday, and Mike and I talked about it a lot. And then there are the more commonplace, sad news items with the death yesterday of Tom Petty. And we're going to play a ton of Tom Petty music on the show today. I loved that guy. I will tell you right now, you will be hard-pressed to find someone who had a more enjoyable catalog of big hit songs than Tom Petty. The kind of stuff that you're in the car and the song comes on, and I don't care who you are, where you are, what you're doing, what you're otherwise thinking about, you are singing along and you know every single word to the song.
Greeny, I grew up in Louisiana, and I'll be the first to admit I never knew who Tom Petty was. But growing up and starting to understand different genres of music, I'll never forget the first time I heard the song Free Fallin' Come On. And I was just mesmerized because I'm a beat guy.
Yeah.
Then I listened to the words. And when I heard the beat, then the words came in. Free Fallin' is one of my favorite songs of all time. And I would have loved to have heard him perform that live because to me, it's just an amazing song.
What year did he play the Super Bowl? He was really good at the Super Bowl. 2007, I'm being told. He was really good. If I remember correctly, that was the year that the Giants beat the unbeaten Patriots, right? Am I putting that together right? That was that Super Bowl? Yeah. He was phenomenal.
Yeah.
At the Super Bowl. Someone asked me before we came in here, did I ever see him in concert? And I didn't. That's the closest I ever came, was seeing him play halftime of the Super Bowl. Here's your song that you're talking about. And I don't mean to smile on what is a sad day. He is one of the great artists of recent memory. And the Traveling Wilburys, which was the super group they put together, which was Tom Petty and George Harrison and Roy Orbison and Bob Dylan, among others, was phenomenal. But right before we came on today, we were sitting and talking about Tom Petty, and Booger tried to sing Free Fallin', and let me tell you, it will ruin your day. At some point,
that's why I'm not going to do it. No,
I will give you some warning before we do it. It's one of those where, like, sometimes I'll say if you have kids in the car, you might want to listen to something else because we're going to get into something that might be disturbing or sexually explicit. We're going to have that with Booger later this morning. Booger's going to sing Free Fallin' for it's just 1 minute. Listen, you made me twerk on the air one time, and my kids still talk about it. So you're going to sing Free Fallin' at some point today if it's the last thing I do.
I'll give you a little tease.
But we will play Tom Petty music for you all morning long. Rest in peace, Tom, and thank you for the countless hours we have already spent and will continue to spend listening to all of your music. In the meantime, to the sports news of the day, and here we go. Baseball playoffs start tonight. We got the game for you on ESPN tonight. It's the Twins and the Yankees in the American League wildcard game, 8 Eastern on ESPN, and every pitch of the postseason, of course, is here on ESPN Radio. We're going to get into this in a couple of minutes. Do you like... Because you and I have talked about a lot of sports, and for those of you who've not had a chance to hear a lot of Booger with me over the months, Booger is not just a football guy, but knows everything about everything. Do you like the one-game playoff format for the wild card in baseball? Because I have a love-hate relationship with it.
I don't like it at all, Greeny, because, let's just take a look at this situation. The Yankees are 6 games better than the Twins, so I think the Yankees should get rewarded for having a better regular season. I would steal David Ross's idea. He and I had a long conversation about this. If there is a team that has a better record than the other, allow that team to only have to win one game. So in other words, in this situation, if the Yankees win tonight, series is over. If the Twins win tonight, play again, have the Twins win twice because they have a worse record than the Yankees. I do not like the one-game playoff in the wild card.
Okay, that's insanity, but I have other ideas that we'll get into.
It's a good idea.
No, it's a good idea with the exception of its terribleness. But
it's not terrible.
We'll debate this a little bit later.
Wow. Are you kidding?
Off the top.
Elsewhere, the Raiders are going to be without Derek Carr a minimum of 2 weeks. The number I've seen attached to it is 2 to 6 weeks after he suffered a transverse process fracture in his back on Sunday. I'm not going to ask you to explain the fracture, but explain the impact on a Raider team that already is not off to the kind of start that a lot of us projected that they might be.
Well, first of all, this is not going to be season ending. We've seen a couple people have this. I think Cam Newton and Tony Romo have had this. The Raiders have gotten some bad luck, and maybe for them, they can now just hold on and come back and reset. If you're Derek Carr, who hadn't gotten off to a good start, now, in my opinion, E.J. Manuel comes in. I hope he's better than the last time we saw him. He was terrible. They're going to have to lean on their offensive line, run the football a little bit more, be more physical. This is supposed to be one of the great offensive lines in football, along with the Cowboys. They haven't played that way so far. This will be an opportunity for them to take advantage of that.
Off the top.
Millions of fans of the Chicago Bears all across the country, including the one who lives in my house, can rejoice. Mitchell Trubisky will be the Bears starting quarterback when they return to the field, which will be next Monday night, actually, against Minnesota. Are they making the right decision here?
No, I don't think so, because if the young man was not ready, then why are you putting him in now just because of public sentiment, public pressure? I think the whole plan along was to play Mike Glennon. And to me, it bothers me when an organization has a plan and then because of what's going on in Houston, because of what other organizations do, because of public sentiment, you change your plan. If the plan was not to play Mitch Trubisky, then don't play him, because we've seen other quarterbacks play too soon and not be ready. Mike Glennon, you're paying him a lot of money. The Bears aren't going anywhere at all this year. Play Glennon, allow Trubisky to get a little bit more season. If you want to bring him in week 8 or week 9, that's fine. But right now, in my opinion, it's too soon.
Off the top.
And finally, the Chiefs beat Washington on Monday Night Football, and Kansas City remains the only unbeaten team in the NFL. We already described to you the crazy finish that was both the spread and the over on the last play of the game. Let's get into how the game itself was decided. That's Off the Top with Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance, with our compare rates for you, so you get the best deal even if it's not with Progressive, saving you time and money. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today. Booger McFarland, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only unbeaten team left in the NFL. Are they the best team in the NFL?
Well, right now you have to say that because of the multiplicity of ways they can beat you. They have a defensive front that can get after the quarterback. When you look at Ford, you look at Houston, what they can do. But more importantly, offensively, Andy Reid is the best play caller in professional football, not because of the plays that he comes up with, not because of when he calls them, but because he's morphing his offense to what he has. He has great young weapons. Tyreek Hill, prime example. He's not a running back. He's really not a great receiver. He's a weapon. So he figures out ways to get him the football. He understands that Alex Smith is never going to stand back there and throw it 50 times reading his progression. So he gets him on the move, uses his athleticism. And so when you couple all that together, last night they didn't play their best game, Greeny. Okay, Washington came out, and Washington clearly outplayed Kansas City early on, had them down 10-0. They didn't blink whatsoever. Kareem Hunt, to me, has been one of the bright young surprises so far this season. They can run the football. They have weapons on the outside. They have a defense, and right now they're playing better than anybody in the National Football League.
Well, I'm going to set up hashtag Too Far Tuesday coming up for you in a minute, although I suppose just by mentioning it, I've already done it. It's a Tuesday, which means we'll be taking your tweets all morning long using the hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Anything that you sort of our version of Overreaction Monday, but we do it on Tuesday just so we can say that it seemed original. But I picked the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl this year, and they're starting to make me look better and better.
Which means they won't. If you pick them, they won't.
Yeah, I mean, my KOD generally will destroy people. And look, last year Denver and Minnesota both started 4-0, and neither one of them wound up in the playoffs. So this is a guarantee of nothing. But if you look at their division, which you could argue is the best division in football,
right?
The Broncos are they have a larger flaw, I believe, than the Chiefs do. The Chiefs are at times unspectacular offensively because of their quarterback. The Broncos are at times unspectacular offensively. You know how much I love Trevor Siemian, but you don't look at him, and we saw it in Buffalo as a guy. If you need him to throw the ball 45 times, you're probably not going to win that game. I think Denver's defense is better than Kansas City's defense. The Raiders now have lost their quarterback for, let's call it, a month if we're going to split the difference. So but you look around, Kansas City has banked a win on the road against New England. Look at how unspectacular a lot of what we think the other better teams are in the AFC. Houston, which is the best team to me in the South, is led by a rookie quarterback, albeit a spectacular one, but a rookie. Right now, Pittsburgh and Kansas City look like the two teams, and maybe Denver with that defense, and we'll see what Buffalo turns out to be. I'm feeling pretty good. My hashtag Too Far Tuesday is, I was right. Kansas City is going to wind up winning the AFC.
Well, I don't think that's too far. And when you compare the teams, Kansas City and Pittsburgh, I trust Kansas City's defense more than I trust Pittsburgh's defense. Now, the offense in Pittsburgh may be more explosive, but I think when you look at the totality of both teams, and I think the wild card, Greeny, that we're forgetting about is what's going on in New England.
Yeah.
They're playing really, really bad right now. They look like an average football team. They're losing to teams that we don't expect them to lose to. But I think in the end, we give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt, and Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback of all time. They'll figure out a way to get it done, figure out a way to get it fixed. But when you look at Kansas City, I think Kansas City has something, Greeny, that once the weather changes in Arrowhead Stadium, and it gets cold, and it gets windy, and it gets rainy, they can line up and run the football with this young man, Kareem Hunt. And they can run the football with their quarterback. The ways that they can beat you are multiple. And you have to have multiple ways that you can beat teams. When you look at New England, in my opinion, the only way New England can beat you is if Tom Brady has a tremendous day. He's got to throw for 350. Gronk has to go off. Like, there's only a certain number of ways that New England can beat you, especially with the way that defense is playing right now. I don't think it's too far, because when you have multiple ways that you can win football games, I like those teams better than the ones that can only win it singularly.
Kareem Hunt had 121 yards from scrimmage, so he's had 4 consecutive games to start his career with at least 100 yards from scrimmage. The record is 5, held by Adrian Peterson, so he's one shy of that. Hunt has been spectacular. And to further your point, let me give you a number on Hunt that really illustrates where the National Football League is right now. Here's where running the football makes a difference. In the second halves of these games, you can do a lot of different things. Booger, you played on the defensive side. Golick, of course, played on that defensive line for all those years as well. And in that second half, when the defense is getting worn down and getting tired, is when Kareem Hunt is warming up. Kareem Hunt has rushed for more yards in the second halves of games this season than any other running back has for the entirety of the year. I hope that stat is clear as I'm reading it to you. He's run for 372 yards in the second halves of games this year. No other running back in the league has 372 rushing yards. So Kansas City is wearing you down with that attack and giving it to this young kid with fresh legs in the second half, and it makes a difference. And you pointed it out as well. Alex Smith, people don't talk about him practically at all.
Yes.
And one of the things that he runs with the ball about as well as any quarterback in the league. Find me a quarterback who runs with it more effectively. He does both things. He stretches the play like some guys do, and he runs for first downs very, very effectively.
To your point about teams running the ball in the second half, who does that remind you of? Let's go back in time a little bit. The Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys would throw the football early, and in the second half, they would turn it over to the offensive line and Emmitt Smith, and they would grind you out. They would get a lead with the passing game, defense or whatever, and in the second half, it was Emmitt Smith time. I would love to know Emmitt Smith's rushing yards in the second half, because they have to be up there. And his ability to run the football, coupled with Alex Smith is underrated. And oftentimes, we become prisoner of our initial thought. And our initial thought was Alex Smith's a bust. He's a guy, he'll never be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Greeny, he's one of the better starting quarterbacks now. We can call him a game manager. Essentially, every quarterback is a game manager. Okay, he's not a guy that's going to throw it 50 times, but what he is, he's a guy that can make plays at the quarterback position. He's not a one-trick pony. He can throw the football, he can get outside the pocket, and there are not a lot of quarterbacks, probably a handful in this league, that I'd rather have than Alex Smith. And I think if you're Andy Reid, yes, you drafted Patrick Mahomes for the future. But Alex Smith is showing you right now how he's playing, that the future may be put off a little while longer in Kansas City.
Here's what I'll say about Alex Smith, and this is going to sound like damning with faint praise, but it's really not. He, to me, is more than good enough. There are 3 levels of quarterbacks, if you want to make it this simple, in the National Football League. There are the guys who, just by having them on the field, your team is way better than it otherwise is and has a chance to win. And there are a very small handful of those guys. Aaron Rodgers and Brady and Belichick, Roethlisberger, who we can debate who they are,
right?
But there's a small number of those.
A small number.
And then there are the guys who are more than good enough. Two of them were on the field last night.
Yep.
Kirk Cousins, to me, is more than good enough. I don't know if he's great. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's never going to be. But he's more than good enough. You can win a championship with that guy as your quarterback if the rest of your team is good. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other half of the league, which have guys who aren't good enough. So that is and they're desperately trying to find someone who's more than good enough. Everyone thinks they're looking for Aaron Rodgers. There's like two of them in the whole planet. You're just fine if you have someone who's more than good enough. To me, Alex Smith is more than good enough.
Greeny, I'll make it a lot more simple than that. To me, there's a line.
Yeah.
You're either above the line or you're below the line.
Fair enough.
If you're below the line, then I'm looking for somebody else because you can't help my team win in any form or any facet. If you're above the line, then you can do things to help my team win, whether they are ordinary or extraordinary. I'll keep it really simple. Alex Smith, he's above the line. Kirk Cousins, he's above the line. And I think when you look at a guy like Blake Bortles, he's below the line, just to give you a separation. So make a line. Your guy is either above the line or below the line. And we saw two quarterbacks last night that are above the line. How far? That's up to you to know that they are above the line, but they are above that line.
All right. So again, Kansas City with the win and the cover and the over on the crazy final play. We have sound bites coming from both sides. Let me give you a little Straight Talk here, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Little hidden number in last night's game where the game changes. When Josh Norman is on the field last night, Kansas City has a combined total of 0 points. They were throwing the ball for about 5 yards per attempt, and their quarterback, Alex Smith, was being pressured 44% of the time that he went back. Now, I know these are a lot of numbers, but it's as simple as this. With Josh Norman on the field last night, Washington's defense is entirely different because they were able to put him out there on an island. They're able to allow him to do his thing. They can bring other people. They can get after the quarterback. They can do a lot of other things defensively that Booger could explain better than I could. Norman goes out with ribs late in the second quarter of that game. By the way, he's going to be out a couple of weeks. From that point forward, all of the numbers change. The Chiefs score 23 points offensively as opposed to the 0 they had with Norman on the field. They are pressured on only 20% of their dropbacks, about half the time. So you can explain better than I the difference that a guy like Josh Norman, which you don't look at a stat sheet and say, well, he had this many passes defensed and he had this many interceptions. The difference in that defensive look when he's on the field.
Well, what you can do when you have a shutdown corner, you can essentially take away the number one weapon on the outside. When you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, they're trying to get the football to Kelsey. Okay, their tight end who wants to be like Gronk so bad it's not even funny. Like he wants to be Gronk Jr. every time you watch him with his mannerisms and all those things. But he's a very, very good tight end. So Norman can take away the outside, whether that's Hill or Harris, whoever that is on the outside. And now you can take your linebackers and your safeties who don't have to help Norman. Now they can focus and help on Kelsey because Kelsey's going to take over the middle of the field. He's going to roam the center. And when Alex Smith gets in trouble, he is going to look for Kelsey. Very similar to what the Cowboys and a lot of teams, Richard Sherman, when you have a number one guy, now you take the other 10 guys and you devote them to the other 9 offensive guys. And so it's basically a numbers game. And Josh Norman allows the Redskins to play the numbers game. Where Kansas City is different, their best receivers are tight end. So it forces you now to bring safeties and linebackers and play bracket coverage and things of that nature. That's where they're different. Their best receiver goes up the middle, and all their complementary guys are on the outside. So they're a little bit different to defend when you have a number one corner like Josh Norman.
So if all the numbers I gave you are complicated for you, and I get it, particularly if you're listening on the radio, it's hard to follow that many. Let it simply be this. When Josh Norman was on the field last night, Kansas City did not score. And he went out right before halftime, and the Chiefs scored 23 points the rest of the night. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. We're just getting started. Booger is here. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up, the number that really should concern you if you're a Patriot fan. It has nothing to do with your defense. All the hashtag Too Far Tuesdays are just getting started. And we're going to really learn something about college sports with the way one school handles one situation.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, you know, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Mike and Mike will play nothing but Tom Petty music for you all morning long today. I'm just going to hit it randomly. I'm warning the people right now running the B-roll. So I didn't give you any heads up on that one. I apologize, but I just felt like hearing it. Yesterday I'm walking through my house, and I every now and again, if you've been away from your phone for a little while, you'll check it and you'll see what's going on. And I started seeing stories saying there was no first name attached to it for some reason. Petty was rushed to a hospital.
Right.
And my first thought, in all honesty, was Richard Petty, the legendary race car driver who's an older man as well. I don't know exactly how old Richard Petty is, but that was the first thought that went through my mind. And, of course, that's a sports figure, so I started thinking to myself, okay, this is the way your mind is sort of conditioned to work when you work in this business as long as I have. Oh, if Richard Petty dies today, what are we going to need to do on the show tomorrow and all of that? And then all of a sudden, I started seeing pictures of Tom Petty fly by on my timeline, and I had to sit down. And I love that guy. I don't have any other words to describe it. I never met him, and this is what music can do for you that almost no other art form can do. I never met Tom Petty in my entire life. I've never spoken to him. He was never on the show. I never interviewed him. And yet I genuinely feel like I loved that guy.
Greeny, I put music in the same category with sports. Sports often galvanize us. You don't see color. You don't see economic background. You don't see heritage. All you see is people. That's what music does also, because when you hear that song, it puts you in a mood. It puts you in a feeling. When you hear Tom Petty, Free Fallin', American Girl, like those are songs that just generally make you happy inside, make you smile, make you sit down and reflect. That's what music does, just like sports.
I don't know how this is broken up by age. Like if you're 20 years old, I don't know if that song resonates with you the way that it does with me.
Yeah.
But that's one of those songs. If I were to list the top 5 songs that might come on the radio, and at whatever point it is, like if you're just sort of flipping through stations and that pops on. That you will stop, you will listen to the rest of it regardless of what else is going on, and you just start dancing along and you're moving along. And what can you say? Again, thank you, Tom, for all of the music and all of the joy that you brought us all these years. Coming up in a couple of minutes here, I will give you a statistic, if you are a fan of the Patriots or any football fan, that should concern you a lot more than anything involving their defense. But we'll start with our hashtag Too Far Tuesdays. And here we go. Ryan tweets us, hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Mitch Trubisky will win Rookie of the Year. Now, he's going to have a whole bunch of competition, right? Kareem Hunt has been spectacular. Deshaun Watson has been spectacular. Yeah. What do you think, Booger? Is that too far?
Yeah, it's way too far. I mean, even if he comes on and plays well, I don't think the Bears are going to the postseason. You can see a scenario where both Kareem Hunt in Kansas City and Deshaun Watson in Houston are in the postseason. They're going to play a viable role in their teams getting there. So that may be a bit too far. Like it's one thing to go too far. It's another thing to go crazy.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's a little crazy.
That's Crazy Tuesday. We do that. We only do that every third Tuesday. Matthew Kyle tweets, Too Far Tuesday. Kareem Hunt wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, NFL MVP, and Super Bowl MVP.
I like that one, because if Kansas City is winning and Kansas City is playing for those things, he's going to be a very, very pivotal part in that. Rookie of the Year, he's got some competition with Deshaun Watson right now. I thought your pick before the season, Dalvin Cook, was good before he got hurt with the ACL.
What a shame for that kid.
Just a total shame. NFL MVP, it's not out of the question. I like that Too Far Tuesday.
He's got, again, he leads the National Football League in rushing at 502 yards. And as I told you earlier, his 372 yards rushing in the second halves of games alone would lead the NFL. Too Far Tuesday, Brian tweets, the Bills will win the AFC East and the Patriots will miss the playoffs.
Wow. I don't know if that's too far, Greeny. And here's the reason I'll say that. Because if you just look at what's going on right now in Buffalo, we talked about the personality of teams and what Sean McDermott has done up there in Buffalo and how they're playing right now. Tyrod Taylor, we talk about that line. He's above the line, Greeny. Okay, if you look at the quarterbacks in the National Football League, he's above the line. The defense is playing better. Shady has always been a very, very good running back. And more importantly, let's look at the Patriots. At some point, when does it end? We're not going to have a sign. It's just going to end, meaning the dominance of Belichick and the dominance of Brady. More importantly, us giving Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt. Because it's been 4 weeks, and we continue to talk about the communication issues and the defense isn't playing well. Well, they got veteran players back there. They don't have rookies. It would be one thing if you got young guys and rookies back there. They got veteran guys and Butler and McCourty and Gilmore. These guys have played a lot of football. And if you can't communicate as an experienced player through the first 4 weeks, what's going to change in weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8? We just give them the benefit of the doubt like it's automatic. I don't know if it's automatic.
No, I look, the flip side of that, I understand what you're saying. The flip side of that is if you don't give him the benefit of the doubt, who are you giving it to?
We are.
It should almost be renamed the benefit of the doubt, which I almost accidentally said, and it actually kind of works.
Right.
Maybe we can, hashtag trademark that. If Bill Belichick doesn't get the benefit of the doubt through 4 games, it's one thing if we're in December.
Correct.
And we're in the beginning of October. If he doesn't have the benefit of the doubt, then no one has ever deserved the benefit of the doubt. But with that in mind, let me set up then my next point, which was going to be, here's the number that should concern you if you're concerned about the Patriots. From whichever side. If you're a Bills fan and you're thinking, can we hold on?
Right.
If you're a Patriot fan and you're thinking, can we get this thing turned up? Yeah, your defense has been awful. You've given up 300 yards passing in every single game, and you've had communication issues that have led to receivers running free in every game. I get it. But here's maybe a bigger concern. Yes, Tom Brady is leading the league in passing yards. Yes, he's on record to throw for an NFL record 5,600 yards this year, practically. And yes, he hasn't been intercepted this year.
Mm-hmm.
However, and the first place I saw this was Michael David Smith wrote it on Pro Football Talk yesterday. He has been sacked 13 times in 4 games. He was sacked a total of 15 times all of last year. Now, bear in mind, that was only 12 games in the regular season because he was suspended the first 4. But even so, the number still stands up, and it is obvious. He is on pace to get sacked 52 times this year. He's never been sacked anywhere near that many times. The most ever in his career was 41, and that was the year that he replaced Bledsoe as, for all intents and purposes, a rookie quarterback. He wasn't actually a rookie, but you get the point. He's 40 years old. Mm-hmm. How many hits can a guy that age, no matter how healthy his living is, we can joke about it or not, the lifestyle, but whatever it is, 40 years old is 40 years old. How much of a beating can he continue to take before it becomes a real problem?
It will eventually take its toll. I don't care how much avocado ice cream he eats. I don't care how much of the Tom Brady sleepwear that he wears and the footies and pajamas and stretching. At some point, the physical body is made up of bone, ligaments, tissue. All of that stuff either breaks or tears or gets hurt. It's a concern, Greeny, and I think the offensive line is not protecting well. More importantly, Tom Brady's used to getting the ball out quick. Who does he throw the football to quickly? Edelman. Edelman is not there.
Right.
So he's having to hold the football just a little bit longer to find some of the other guys. He's still getting in tune with Brandon Cooks. Gronkowski's not a fast guy. You have to give him time to get down the field. So their offense is going to look a little different. They're never going to run the football up and down the field, which is why my concern is this. If your defense is not playing well and you're a one-trick pony on offense, okay, that's a recipe. I'm not going to say for disaster, but it's a recipe that you can see how the Patriots get beat, and they've gotten beat by teams that they really shouldn't be losing to. There's no reason that Carolina should have went in there and won that game because Cam Newton was playing terrible throughout the season. Now, I'll give him credit. He played his best game of the season, and he let everybody know after the game, don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you right now because I just played well. But from the Patriots standpoint, Brady taking a beating is a concern because he has to drop back and throw the football 30 to 40 times for them to win.
No quarterback at 40 or older has ever been sacked 35 times in a season. Sacks became official in 1982. Again, Brady is on pace to be sacked 52 times.
Okay, how many quarterbacks 40 or older have ever played? That's like a little stat there that's kind of, misconstrued a little.
It's not a lot. I mean, off the top of my head, Moon, Favre. If you want to go back to someone like George Blanda, but he wouldn't have played after 1982.
Was Favre over 40 when he played?
Yes, I believe he had 1 or 2 seasons over 40. It's a very small number,
right?
But you're correct. It's a very small number.
Right.
But again, it's a small number of quarterbacks who've played at a number that large of their age, and to be sacked 52 times. Look, it just can't happen. There's just no way. One or the other is going to happen. Either they're going to get the protection situation / the quarterback hit, or he's not going to make it. I mean, it's one or the other. Again, I give them the benefit of the doubt. All right, we are Mike and Mike. I don't think I explained that really well. Let me.
Not really well. I don't know if anybody that was listening understood anything that you were saying.
Let me do it again. So the plot of this is, by the way, as the rest of the country joins us, this relates to the fact that the Jets are winning games now, and Booger is actually sending me texts while they're going on making fun of me because they're winning. I mean, since the beginning of time, people have been texting each other nasty notes when their team loses.
Yes.
I'm the only person who could be getting nasty texts when they win because everyone thinks that they're tanking because they want to get a high draft pick. So I said it's kind of like the classic Mel Brooks movie, The Producers. So what that's about is two guys in the movie. It's Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel, and they decide they come up with this brilliant scheme. It's illegal, of course, but it's a brilliant scheme that you go to all these investors and say, we're going to put a show on, and you donate some money, invest some money in it. And here, you now own 50% of the rights. You own 50%. You own 50%. These people are going to all claim all this money in profits, which obviously you can't be selling if there are any profits.
Right.
So they then put on what they think is the worst show in the history of shows, with the idea that it will be so bad that no one will ever go see it. It'll close in one day, and they get to keep all the money. That's the plot of the movie.
Right.
Well, that's kind of what's going on with the Jets now. They've put Josh McCown on the field. He's too good to tank. He's too good to be 0-16. And so your point is exactly right. Put Hackenberg in there, and you will be 0-. Well, it's too late for that now. You'll be 2-14, and you'll get the number 1 or 2 or 3 pick in the draft.
Okay, you could have explained it a lot simpler by saying, you know what, this team is trying to tank, but they're actually a little bit better than we thought. So, okay.
I know. I probably could have left it at that. I don't know where. Only I could have turned that into something about a Broadway musical.
A classical musical.
All
like
right.
that.
Let's just move on from that for a moment here. We'll get back to the Too Far Tuesdays and everything else, but don't forget we got baseball tonight. We got the wild card game in the American League, Twins and Yankees at Yankee Stadium. You'll see it on ESPN. You'll hear it on ESPN Radio.
News you didn't even know you needed or even want.
Well, if I was you, I'd do something about it.
These are Mike and Mike's Nerd Notes.
All right, so here we go. We got Nerd Notes for you on Yankees Twins tonight.
Nerd alert!
And it starts with the career or the historical record between these teams. Yankees and Twins have met 14 times in the playoffs, 14 games. The Yankees are 12-2. That's the second best record of any team against a single opponent in the postseason history. The Yankees have outscored the Twins 69-36 in those games.
Nerd alert!
However, in the history of the wild card game, the team that starts the more experienced pitcher has won 8 of the 10 historically. It's a small sample size. They've only been doing it 5 years. The Yankees will start the less experienced Luis Severino against the more experienced Irvin Santana. For what that's worth. All eyes, of course, will be on Aaron Judge, who hit a Yankee record 33 home runs in the Bronx this year. He became the first player since Mickey Mantle in 1958 to lead the American League in runs, home runs, and walks. What does Vegas say?
Nerd alert!
With an eye, of course, on the money line here. The Yankees are minus 230 to win the game tonight. You have to bet $230 to win 100. That makes them the largest favorite in the history of the wild card game, which dates back to 2012. So, Booger, you had this idea that you brought up this morning.
Yes.
That you think that home field advantage should mean more, or the better record should mean more in a one-game playoff scenario than just home field. The Yankees had a 6-game better record, so you believe the Twins should have to win an extra game.
Yeah, I think when you look at this situation, it's an unfair advantage if you're the better team. They give you home field, but when you've been the better team all year, you should get an advantage and only have to win 1 game. However, if you're the Twins, you're the worst team. Not only should you go on the road, but you should have to win 2 games. I don't like the idea of a 1-game winner-take-all wild card situation, especially for the Yankees, because the one thing about these Yankees, especially with Joe Girardi managing, Joe Girardi gets a little tight and a little nervous in some of these big games. He's got one of the best pitchers in baseball tonight. And not to get too baseball-y right here, but it'll be very, very key. How does Joe Girardi handle Severino tonight? Because I think he's probably 3rd, 4th, 5th best pitcher in baseball, somewhere in there, depending on how you look at it. His stuff is outstanding. Slider change, fastball is electric. Let him pitch. They should have an advantage tonight, not just a 1-game series in the boogie down. They should be able to say, you know what? We have the luxury, since we were the better team, we can have 2 games to win 1. If you're the Twins, you need 2 games to win 2.
So that's hashtag Too Far Tuesday for me. We're going to come up against the end of the hour here, so we'll talk about this off the top. I do like the idea of increasing the advantage. To me, that would be going a little bit too far. Personally, I have a love-hate relationship with the second wild card, and I've talked about it over the years, both with Bud and with Manfred, and we'll do that as we continue. Much more to go as we roll on. Just getting started on a Tuesday. Mike and Mike. Be right back.